Now, I normally try to stay away from bread as much as possible. I normally I just normally recommend against it. Unless it's Ezekiel bread, I like Ezekiel bread, but when I'm cutting, I still stay away from it. Just bread is it's just very, most bread is very processed. It's full of sugar, it's full of carbs, and full of chemicals, really. Ezekiel bread I like because it's something you have to freeze. And if you don't freeze it, it goes bad like within a day. And that's a good sign, right? That's a good sign that it's not very processed. It's not full of chemicals. But yeah, for the most part, I try to avoid bread as much as possible, and really just a lot of carbs, especially when I'm cutting. I really try to avoid a lot of carbs as much as possible. And I'm not one to say that carbs are bad for you. It's just that most high starchy foods are heavily processed, and they just don't, you don't get much bang for your buck, right? Like, they're not really nutrient dense, okay? But today is leg day, and that is the one day that I normally do incorporate some form of carbs or sugar, or just have a little bit heavier meal. And it's also to keep you sane, right? When you have a day where you can go a little bit higher on your calories and a little bit higher on your carbs, it feels good, and it helps to satiate that craving that we all have for sugar and carbs. So if you can have 1 or 2 days a week where you can have that, it makes the rest of the other days of the week a lot easier to stick to whenever you're in a calorie deficit, or you're just, trying to kick out a lot of the carbs. So if you are somebody who does love fruits, you love bread, you love cereal, or maybe even just chips, maybe gummy bears, maybe there's some candy you really love, and you're trying to diet, you don't have to kick all that out completely. But I would recommend, if you do want to have a cheat day or something, the best time to incorporate those heavier meals, those higher sugar, higher carb meals, is right before either a full body day or a leg day, whatever program you're following. But like a heavy, heavy day, a full body day or a leg day is going to be the best time to incorporate it. Don't save it. Don't say, oh, it's my cheat day. Let me enjoy this snack at night while I'm watching a movie. I mean, you can, but it would be better just to do it, to incorporate it into your routine as well. Do it before your leg day, and it's going to give you some energy, and you'll get even more gains from your leg day as well. And so for me, one of my best pre-workouts when it comes to leg day is some toast with some peanut butter and then some honey over top. Now you can use jam if you want. If you use jam, I recommend making some homemade jam, like whatever jam you like. If you like strawberries, buy some strawberries, make some jam. If you want to, if you like, another thing I'll do is I'll just chop up some bananas. I don't have bananas, otherwise I would be doing this now too. Normally I'll put some peanut butter over top of this toast, chop up some bananas and put that over top of this, and then drizzle a little bit of honey over top. I do not have bananas today, unfortunately. All my bananas went bad, had to throw them out. But I think I do at least have some honey. I'll have to find it. I looked for it, I didn't see it in there, but hopefully I have it, because this is going to be very dry, and yeah, I would like to have some honey with this as well. But if not, it's okay. We'll make it work. I think I do still have some fruit in the fridge. We'll see. But this is one meal that I have found that's just feels best for me, I think, before leg day. Because when I eat like cereal or something like that, I just don't think the milk settles well, especially with the pre-workout, So I think milk is one of those. It's not good, in my opinion, to have a lot of liquids in your stomach before you're going to do a workout. It just doesn't feel good. Sometimes you can feel it sloshing around. That's why you kind of want to sip water before and through your workout. You never want to just like chug water before or during your workout, because you will feel it, and it just makes you feel kind of sluggish, and it doesn't feel good. Okay. So this will be enough for me. Sometimes I just do one slice, but today I think I'm just gonna do two. I'll see how I feel after one. If I feel satiated, like this is enough, then I'll do it. Because another thing you don't want to do is you never want to go into a workout feeling too full or lethargic because you ate too much. And that just brings me on to a question I know a lot of people have: is should you train fasted if you want to lose weight? And you can. Some people just cannot. Like, some people, they get really sick, and if you're the type of person who's going to get nauseous and sick, I would advise against it. You don't have a little small meal. Yes, you will probably burn more calories. Not probably, you will, because in my experience, I've done that. I've done intermittent fasting and train fasted, and you will lean down faster. You will lose more weight, but you have to ask yourself, is it worth it for you? If it's going to make you hate your workouts, don't do it, because the name of the game is consistency. we're playing a long-term game here, right? Nobody wants to be fit for 1 week or 1 month. Nobody wants to be ripped. We want to be look good for life and feel good for life, right? Healthy for life. So if you're doing something that's making you hate your workouts, then change it into a way it's going to make you enjoy your workouts. And if that means eating a meal before, then do that. You know, again, the name of the game is consistency. Whatever we can do to be more consistent is what we should be doing. Okay, so I do have some honey. And by the way, this is the kind of honey I recommend too. Whenever you buy honey, you need to look at the ingredients on the back and you want to make sure that the ingredients say honey. Like that's it. It should just say honey. Well, this one says honey and comb because I love when they put the little comb inside there because I'll eat it afterwards. Anyways, yeah, so it should just say honey. It should not say corn syrup and then 1,000 other artificial ingredients. It should just say honey. So when you go and get honey, make sure, because a lot of honeys are not actual honey. They're just corn syrup and a ton of other preservatives and other junk you don't want to be putting in your body. So I'm going to put some of this in here. Notice I'm not measuring any of this out. Now, why is that? Because there's two factors that matter to me when it comes to nutrition, and that is protein and calories. Now, if you want to get absolutely shredded, like you want to be like bodybuilding type, like you're going to compete. Basically, if you're going to compete, not even shredded, because you can get shredded without doing all the macro counting and all that. But if you want to compete, yes, you probably should be calculating all this stuff. But I feel for the majority of people I feel don't want to compete. I feel the majority of people, they just want to be healthy and look good. And for those people, I'm telling you right now, you don't need to be doing all this macro counting and apps and like every time you break out a meal, you need to calculate every single atom of this bread and peanut butter and honey. Again, for me, there's two factors that matter: calories and protein. And that's it. The rest, I don't care. I don't follow it. I don't care about the carbs or I don't care about the fats. And the reason why is like it doesn't matter so much is because you can count all those carbs and macros, but let me tell you something, it's not all equal, right? If you eat 500 calories of a salad and 500 calories of Reese cups, that's not the same. So that's why those numbers don't matter to me as much. Now, when you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, you need to know calories, right? That's the number one thing. Your calories, whether or not you're in a deficit or a surplus. And then protein, you have to hit it if you're trying to build muscle. You have to hit it, okay? And it's better to get too much than not enough. Because if you get too much, your body's still going to build a muscle. If you get too less, your body can't do anything with it. So how much is that? How much, what's that number look like? Well, if you're just trying to maintain muscle and you're not really trying to do, you're not working out, then you should be somewhere between 0.5 to 0.8. Again, you're not working out. You're just trying to maintain whatever you have. You're just trying to keep a healthy diet. Somewhere around there, maybe on the higher side, 0.6 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. If you're lifting, I think you should be between 0.8 and 1.2 grams per pound. That should be sufficient. Really 1 gram, if you just want to play it safe, 1 gram to 1.2 per pound of body weight is just like you're going to be good. You're going to be in the green. You're going to be fine. And again, you might get too much if you go 1.2 or even higher. 1.5, I think that's a little bit overkill in my opinion, but even if you go that high, it's better than being too low. And that doesn't mean you should go up to 1.5. I'm just saying, it's better to be in the green than to be in the red, right? It's better to play it safe, okay? And you can experiment with those numbers because again, once you go up higher, you are also getting more calories. So that's something you have to think about. And it does, when you're cutting, you normally do need more protein, and it kind of sucks because when you get more protein, you get more calories. But that's all right because protein is very satiating. And you're going to have to get more of it anyways because you're going to be normally cutting out carbs whenever you're cutting. Another question a lot of people have is if I do decide to eat, how often should I wait before working out? And that really depends on what you're eating. If you're eating simple carbs or like fructose, like fruit, or just like honey or candy, then you could really just work out immediately. You could be in your car in the parking lot, eat a banana, and then go inside and work out. You'll be fine. Simple carbs, practically they digest like immediately. Now, if it's complex carbs, like more starchy carbs, breads, potatoes, stuff like that, that I would say at least a half hour at the very least, half hour to 1 hour before your workout. Okay. And so it's okay if you have a combination of both. It's actually recommended because simple carbs and complex carbs, they use different pathways. So if you are going to have a meal, it's recommended to have really just to have a full complete meal, like protein, simple carbs, and complex carbs, because they all use different pathways and they're all going to give you different advantages in the gym. And so also, what do I take before working out? In case you're wondering, I take this pre-workout here. It's called Total War. Now, if you like very strong, like skin tingling pre-workout, then I recommend this one. If you don't, then don't pick this one up, because this one has 320 milligrams of caffeine. It is a lot, and you feel this pre-workout a lot. However, I've been taking pre-workout for a long time, so I like my pre-workout strong. I don't like to take my pre-workout and not feel it, because I just feel like, well, what's the point of taking it? I've also put 5 grams of creatine in my pre-workout, and then I also put this in my pre-workout as well. This is Haritaki powder. I probably pronounced that wrong, but this just has a ton of health benefits. I'm not even going to try to list all the benefits here, but you can research this yourself if you want. Haritaki powder. All right, so since this is a home workout, one problem you'll face when trying to hit specific muscles is you got to be creative. Now, even though I have this big machine here, I'm still very limited. I can't do free weight squats. I don't have a quad extension or hamstring machine. So what I have done though to incorporate some hamstrings, that way I can isolate them, is put these straps on here, and basically just going to wrap those around my ankle and then do some hamstring curls with these. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, you got to be creative. Even though I have this, I'm still going to be creative and use it to its fullest extent. All right, so I got the knee straps on my ankles just to prevent this from rubbing my leg raw. And by the way, if you've ever wondered, if you've never used this before on your knees, I guess I always think it was like for people with injuries who use this, or people with bad knees. But I've started using these, of course, on my knees, not on my ankles, when I do squats. And it makes a huge, huge difference. Like, it's night and day. Like, it's not just like, oh yeah, I think it kind of helps, it kind of supports. Oh no, it is a huge difference. Like, normally when I see people using like wrist straps, I'm not talking about like deadlift, I'm talking about just like wrapping your wrist and wearing like a back brace and like doing all these things. I'm like, does that really do anything? Like an elbow strap or something. I'm like, does it, are you really doing something? But as far as like for the knees squatting, it's night and day. It makes a huge difference. Just that compression, that extra support, feels amazing when you're doing squats and lunges and stuff. And now it's hard to like go heavy without these. It's a huge difference, and I highly recommend using it. Now, if you don't have a cable set up like this and you still want to isolate your hamstrings, one thing you can do is just use a dumbbell and a bench, or you could lay down on the floor and do this, but with the bench you'll get a little bit more stretch. And so how you would do that is basically set up your dumbbell and just kind of grab it with your feet and lay down just like this. And then you just kind of keep it in the stretch position. So like from here to about right here, there's no reason to come all the way up. So about from right here, slow down on the eccentric and then come up. And just stay in that stretch portion where all the tension is. It's a little bit harder to balance than a machine, but if you want to isolate your hamstrings and all you have is some dumbbells, you can do it. And it feels really good, actually. It does feel really good, especially if you stay in that, like that from here to about right here is the top of my tension. Right here, slow it down. And then up, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And you just drop it just like that. Oh man, that actually felt really good. My hamstrings are cooked. So hamstrings is done. Now we're gonna go on to a Smith machine lunge. But before I do that, I just wanted to point out real quick, doing hamstrings before, like if you work it, you have a leg day and you do your hamstrings first, it's gonna feel so much better. And I learned that from John Meadows. It really works. And the thing is, hamstrings are a weak point for a lot of people, and it just makes sense to prioritize your weak point. You know, so if you're doing chest and you feel like your upper chest is your weak point, which it is for most men, then start with your upper chest. You know, prioritize what your weak point is, and it just makes sense, right? Not even for exercise, but let's say you're studying, right? Just say you're in college or school and you need to study for a test or something, and like let's say math is your weak point. Well, it makes sense to throughout your study session just prioritize it, do that first, so that way when you have the highest amount of energy and focus, you're getting the your weak point, the hardest point for you, out of the way, you know, and you have the most amount of energy and focus to dedicate to your weak point, so that way hopefully eventually it's no longer your weak point and you can build it up to the same level, if not better, than the other areas that you're building up. Now the Smith machine gets a lot of hate, but I'm telling you, if you want to grow your legs or you want to grow your chest, you need to be incorporating so Smith machine. I mean, you don't need to be, but it's amazing in my opinion, because you can safely go to failure. If I was to do lunges with dumbbells or with a bar on my back, it's going to be very difficult to go to failure, because if I'm doing dumbbells, my grip will probably give out before my legs. And if I'm doing a bar on my back, well, you're not able to isolate your legs, because now my back muscles, my shoulders, everything's trying to control that bar and the wobble and the balance, and just so many factors and variables you have to focus on and worry about. And why do that when we're trying to hit our legs, right? Why throw in the shoulders in there and the abs and the core? And I know some people will say, well, don't you want to be more functional, like functional training and functional fitness and build overall strength? It's like, yeah, well, if that's your goal, then go ahead and do some, you know, free weight barbell squats. I think it's good to incorporate those, but you need to be incorporating these too. I'm not saying only do this, but I'm saying you should have it somewhere in your routine, because it allows you to go to failure safely, effectively, and really get in those last reps. Because let's be honest, those last few reps is where growth happens, right? If it didn't, why would people be doing 3 or 4 sets of 10 to 8, right? If growth happened in the first 3 reps, 5 reps, there's no reason to go to failure, right? There's no reason to even get close to failure. You just need to pick up a weight and do it 3 times and put it down. But we know that's not how muscle growth works. The real damage to the muscle happens in those last few reps, where it hurts, where it burns. That's the muscle being torn apart. And then we know if we rest efficiently and recover, the muscle will come back bigger and stronger. So using something like this will allow you, right, to not waste your time. Because imagine you're doing a barbell, like a free weight squat, and imagine your whole body is sore, right? Because your back's having to hold that, you're having to balance it. And imagine you quit, right? Imagine you did all those reps. Imagine you did 10 reps when you could have got 14, but you quit at 10 because it hurts and it's hard. And you're fatigued, right? Because a body weight squat uses your whole body, and your heart, you're going to feel it in your heart, your cardiovascular system. So you might not even have the cardiovascular system to complete the set. And so you might do all that work, wear yourself out, only to stop short at like 10, and you're not really going to get much muscle growth out of it. So that's why I think Smith machine, or just machines in general, are good. I'm not saying they're superior, but I'm saying they have benefits that free weights don't. So we're going to do lunges now, and just step back, come down to that knee, set up my stopping point, right there we go. You want to explode up. Almost every exercise you want to perform like this, where you explode on the concentric, and then come down slow, control on the eccentric. Yeah. One common question a lot of people have is, how long should I work out? How long should my workouts be? And the answer is as long as it takes. Everybody's training for different things. And depending on what you want to do, for example, if you're training for strength, you need a lot longer rest times in between your sets, because you're doing very heavy weight for just like anywhere between 1 to 4, maybe 6 at the most reps if you just really want to get stronger. And so you might need 3 minutes of rest. Whereas if you're training for hypertrophy, you might need 1 to 2 minutes at the most. And so there is no magic number, right? It'd be like asking the question, how long should I spend in church before I can call myself a Christian, right? Like it's irrelevant. The question is, it's just honestly irrelevant. So the answer is as long as it takes. Don't look for any number. Don't look to say, well, I should be in and out of the gym in this X amount of time. Really, it's just as long as it takes. And everybody's different. It's just like asking the question like, how long should I be in the sun to get a tan? Well, some people, they can be out in the sun for 5 minutes and they're toast, like they're going to peel the next day. They're burnt. Some people can be out there for an hour and they're fine. They might get a little bit of tan. And it's the same thing. Like why, not everybody's genetics is the same. And so just because you see one person's training 2 hours a day does not mean that you should, right? It's the same thing like asking that with the sun, Everybody's body is going to react different. So I think it's important to find out where you kind of fit in. And of course, age has something to do with this too. When you're younger, you can recover faster, and I think you should take advantage of that when you're younger. I think you should add more volume when you're younger because you can handle it. When you're older, you can cut back on that and probably you're going to need more rest and recovery. That's fine. That's just the way it is. But that's just something that to think about, because a lot of people think there's some magic number when it comes to sets, reps, time in the gym. And it's just like asking the question, how much sun should I get? And it's like, well, it's one of those things where somebody can give you some guidelines. Like I could tell you, hey, you probably most likely don't need more than an hour and a half in the gym. Yeah, I can give you those basic guidelines, but really it's something you're going to have to kind of experiment with yourself and see which one works best for you. And going back to what I was talking about with the nutrition, the best thing is really what can you stick to, right? It's better to do 10 minutes a day than to do 1 hour of workout a month, right? You're going to get more results with 10 minutes a day if you can stick to that consistently than you would if like one day you did a 5-hour workout of the month, So it goes back to like, what is your ideal, what can you do to where you're challenging yourself to grow and get better each time, but you're not overexerting yourself and that you're feeling burnt out. And I think when you find that balance, that's your sweet spot. And sometimes you might need to add more volume. That doesn't mean you need to add more time. I mean, it might lead to more time if you're adding more volume. But that becomes when you're like getting more advanced, right? When you're to the point to where it's like you've added weight and you've added reps and you feel like you're not growing. That comes like years down the line. That at that point you might need to go from 30 sets a week to 50, and that's a maybe. Maybe you try it, maybe you get worse results. And so that's the name of the game, is really trial and error and experimenting, because not everybody's body is the same, not everybody's physiology is the same, not everybody's physique and genetics is the same. So that's just something you have to experiment with. Right. So I think I just broke my nose there from that light falling down, but it's all right. We're just going to use the pain as motivation. Better than the pre-workout, honestly. So I'm going to do something that you probably won't do in the gym, but maybe you can do it at home if you got a Smith machine, which is to do a leg press with this. And you're probably wondering how. Basically, I'm just going to use sandals. You could do this barefoot, but it doesn't feel as good because you don't have as much surface area. And if the leg press machine is taken in your gym and you want to send a message to the gym owner to get more leg press machines, then just head over to the Smith machine and start doing this when the gym owner's walking the floor. And I think he'll get the message. If he doesn't, go to another gym. We're basically just going to do leg presses. And now, if you think this looks silly, it actually feels really good. And there actually are some machines that are set up just like this to where you can leg press while laying down. But if it's the first time doing it, then go light, of course. Get the feel for it. See if you like it. See if your back likes it or not. But yeah, it's basically like a upside down squat. It's basically all it is. It looks silly. It is silly, honestly, but if it feels good and gives you results in big legs, who cares? All right, we got 2 exercises left. Actually, 3. Actually 3, but I already did one, which was working the inner leg. Now, I used that with these straps. I didn't film that part, but I basically just put this strap around this leg here, the other one around there, and then worked my inner thigh. Now that is very crucial if you want bigger legs to work, not just the front and the back of your leg, because that will give you 2-dimensional legs, right? And it might look big from the side, but from the front, you have not developed anything here. So to get really big 3-dimensional legs, you want to work all sides of your legs, right? All dimensions. So that's why I think it's very crucial to work the inside of your legs as well. So do some adduction exercises. And then but last but not least, we have 2 exercises left. So we have the calf raise, which I just have some yoga blocks down here so I can get a good stretch. Now there was actually a study done showing they took 2 people, one who did full range of motion, one who did the top portion of the calf raise, just like the very top concentric portion, and then one who stayed in the bottom half, the stretch portion. And the one who gained the most muscle was actually the one who stayed in the bottom half stretch portion of the rep. So I will be doing some kind of partial reps here, staying in that stretched part of the rep. And then I will incorporate a few full range of motions just to keep that mind muscle connection. But for the most part, I'll be staying in that stretch portion just to, get some more gains according to research. And now one of the last exercises we have to work our quads, because quads are very difficult to work out at home, because the best way to isolate quads, as we know, is by using a leg extension machine. But most people don't have a leg extension machine. So if you're working at home, how can you work out your quads? And there's basically 2 ways. And the one I recommend that I feel the best is sissy squats, because you can do them almost anywhere. Now you do want something to hang on to if it's your first time doing it. But you can really hang on to anything. You can hang on to a door frame, doorway, a door, chair, whatever. So have something to hang on to. Now you can experiment with how you place your feet. Sometimes you can place your feet close together when doing these. But the point is you want to kind of be on the balls of your feet when you're doing this. So kind of staying on your tiptoes and leading your knees almost touching the ground. So I'll show you what that looks like here. I just wanted to show you the foot placement, but just experiment with the foot placement. Go wide, go narrow. See which one feels best for your knees. Again, we want to get something to hang on to just keep balance. And come down, let your knees lead the way, almost touching the floor, leaning back, getting a good stretch. I'm on my toes right now, getting a good stretch in those quads. And then just try to imagine a string on your quads, just pulling it up. You don't want to be trying to pull yourself up like that. In fact, I might just like touch this just to give an example that I am just using my quads. So I'll just barely hang on to this just for balance. Coming down, almost touching the floor with my knees and coming up. I'm on basically on my tiptoes. Again, I'm just holding this, just barely holding this. I'm not using it to pick myself up. Barely holding this just for some balance support. Coming down, up, using my quads. Down, up. And once you get to failure, then you can use whatever you hold on to get yourself up to get a few more reps in. That's fine. But I'm just saying you don't want to rely on that. In fact, the goal is to not hang on to anything if you can get to that point. It's kind of difficult though, but if you can get there, that's the goal. Now, if you do have a quad extension, these are actually great to even just do after you've done leg extensions. So these are a great exercise to add at the end of your workout or after you've done some heavy leg extensions. These are great to add in there just to get that extra pump. Another quad exercise you can do at home. You can do this without equipment. You can just tie a rope somewhere up high. Or just have something you can hang on to up high. For this, since I do have this cable, I'll be using this just to demonstrate. But again, if you have a pull-up bar or something, you can just put a rope there. Basically, we're just gonna have this and be leaning back, stretching those quads, and then pulling yourself up with your quads. Coming down, stretch, stretch, stretching those quads out, and then pulling with your quads. Pull with your quads. Notice I'm not jerking my body, I'm not swinging, because I'm literally just pulling with my quads. Letting my quads loose, stretching them out as far as I can, pulling with the quads. Stretching them out, pull with the quads. So there's two exercises you can do at home for your quads, to isolate your quads. So there's no excuse now to not work your quads and your hamstrings at home. I've given you two workouts you can do. Now, if I want to make this harder, of course, I can just reduce the weight on this. If you do have a cable, I can just reduce the weight on the cable. And now I have to use more of my muscle and less of that weight. Oh yeah, that's much harder. And again, this is another one that's just great to add to your leg day as just a supplemental exercise to get a good stretch in and to just cause a little bit more muscle damage and hypertrophy.